never believe who I have on this week's episode of Alexify, the Place for Fashion podcast. She's a sustainable fashion advocate who is also a fellow Remake ambassador. Hello, Sophia. How are you?
I am so great. I'm very, very happy to be here today with you and talk about our passion together. So
Yes, me too. So let's just get right on into it. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Sophia. I am born and raised in San Francisco, California. I currently live in Oakland. I am a sustainable fashion designer. So what that looks like is I upcycle and reconstruct secondhand clothing. I also create new patterns from dead stock material, and I often natural dye with food, with plants, with flowers, with herbs, and yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And I also work for Remake, meaning that I'm a community organizer. So what that looks like is building different events and different meetups that emphasize sustainable fashion just to bring that community together. And that's been fairly new. And since I've been with Remake, it's just been so great, because being in the sustainable fashion sphere and having like the weight of the world on you, sometimes it feels like a lot. So to be part of a community, so many opportunities arise and a lot of ideas are shared about how we can make this world a better place.
Amazing. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like with sustainable fashion or just like being like a content creator, I feel like most content creators honestly promote like fast fashion brands and just don't really necessarily focus on the harmful sides of fashion. So I feel like a lot of it does kind of like lay on the few of us that are like, no, like sustainability, please. And so it does feel like a lot of the time. So I remember when I first found Remake, I was like, oh my God, like these are people who have similar interests as me and, you know, just really care about like the planet, but also like how the fashion industry directly impacts like the planet. And not only that, but also the people in the fashion industry. So it was just such a relief to like find other people like us
Right.
to help us feel less alone in the journey. But
And speaking
we'll get more into that. Oh no, you were saying, sorry.
No, yeah, it's speaking the same language and then elevating it from there.
No, definitely. So how did you first originally get into sustainability? Was it kind of like you were already into fashion and then later on you learned about sustainability, or did you first learn about sustainability and then be like, oh, this is important to me, I'm going to include this in my day-to-day?
Yeah, so it was totally a love story from the beginning. A love story of fashion. Like I've always wanted to be in fashion. Ever since I was younger, I graduated high school, I moved to Australia, I studied fashion business there, journalism, and then I moved back home to San Francisco, and I was like feeling rather like lost in my journey. So a friend at the time suggested I go back to school. So I took a sewing class and I fell in love more. I was like, oh my God, like fashion design is where I'm at. So, you know, I was super happy being in the fashion industry and really finding my voice and creativity. And one night, you know, I was living at home at the time and I was watching a documentary of my mom and my sister on the couch, and we had popcorn already and super excited. The documentary was called True Cost. Yeah. So, you know,
I know that one.
So that kind of just like, I like literally had popcorn in my mouth, and I just remember like putting my hand down and just being like, what the heck? Like, I feel like my life was a lie in a way, because here I am just like super gung-ho, super passionate about fashion and like style and, you know, fashion shows and like, and then to see that it's like the second biggest polluter right behind oil, and that like most of our clothes are made of oil, and I'm just like, what? Like Like, where is this information coming from, and why haven't I heard about it before?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a love story, but I felt like I was lied to and like betrayed, and like it was hard because I like literally just like I felt like I had to like rework my whole life because I wasn't going to support something that was going to destroy like
Mm-hmm.
humanity or nature, because that's one of my passions too, is um, nature. And so I realized, I looked at my work and I looked at myself and I was like, well, hey, like I am like upcycling, like, you know, because at the moment I was taking items from Goodwill and reworking them. And I was like, okay, I'm like, I'm not really that big of a problem. Like, but what I can do is to be a voice and to be, my clothes could be like a form of protest
Mm-hmm.
against this. So that gave me a whole lot of fire. And once I had that kind of mental switch of like, I don't like what's happening here, I want to change it, that just gave me even more fuel and fire to be even more invested in fashion, but sustainable fashion. And what does that look like? Especially because when this happened was in 2015. And like the language wasn't there really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like my friend, because at the moment I'm going to college right now, and my friend mentioned like even a few years ago, like she tried to present like a sustainable fashion manufacturing plan, and like they turned her down because they're like, that's not possible. That's not like that's not where the world wants it to be, like consumer, like consume, produce,
Mm-hmm.
produce. So like there is like certain areas that wasn't elevating this type of language or even like setting it up for success.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And I'm really happy that in the last few years, even going to fashion design school, like it's being um, more of a topic of conversation in the classroom, because I
Definitely.
feel like even studying fashion, like I should have known about this. You know what I mean?
No, literally, I feel like I had a very similar experience. And there's this blog that I wrote that I always refer back to when people are like, oh, well, like, what's your sustainable journey or like stuff like that. And a while ago, I wrote this blog post and I kind of talked about what my journey was. And literally, from like as a young kid, I was like a huge like justice shopper. Like, justice was like, I um ate, slept, and breathed justice. Do you know that store, like the kids store, and it had like sparkly clothing all the time and stuff like that, and they were always up for like trends for like young kids, and I was a huge justice shopper, and I didn't realize, but I was like, oh my god, like now looking back, I'm like, that was like a fast fashion store but for kids. And then in middle school, like I only shopped like Urban Outfitters all the time, and I loved like Princess Polly and stuff like that. And I loved fashion so much, and I just didn't even know about how there, like, no one told me about the harmful impact that the fashion industry has on our planet and the people working in the industry. And I just like, it was literally never talked about. Like, it wasn't even a thought in my head. And then when I learned more about it, when I don't even like remember exactly what got me into it, but I just started learning like the term sustainable fashion and kind of what it was. And I was like, oh my God, like I was a big part of the problem.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was probably in like at near end of middle school, like thrifting became a really big trend among like me and my friends, and I would always go thrifting. And I think that's when I started to learn more about sustainability and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh my God, like I was a big part of the problem, and now I want to fix that. And so I had this platform where I was just kind of talking about, oh, what celebrities are wearing and what trends are currently happening. And I was like, now that I have this platform and it's already set up there for fashion, like now I want to start educating people, as I'm being educated,
Yeah.
and just like use my platform to inform other people. And I like completely felt the same way, where it's like I kind of felt lied to, because I was like, oh my God, like I'm just like shopping and buying like what I like and not thinking anything of it. And then it's like, oh, just kidding. That's like not something that we should be, you know, at least thinking about our purchases, seeing what we're going to wear them with, how long we're going to wear them, if we're going to wash them that often, if they're going to last a very long time, and stuff like that. And before I was just like impulse buying, I was like, oh my God, like it's fine, like it doesn't matter. And
Yes.
then it's just like crazy to like hear more about it. And you're like, oh my God, like my whole fashion life has been a lie. And like what you said, like I've talked to people that, you know, went to fashion design school, whatever school, like 5-10 years ago, and sustainability wasn't mentioned whatsoever. And I go now, and it's like the only thing that's mentioned. I feel like in every single class, it's like, oh, there's this, and that. And then there's sustainability, and there's this, and that, and there's sustainability. I'm like, I'm really glad that I'm kind of like growing up in a time where this is something that's really being focused on, because,
Yeah.
you know, it is like a lot, like we need to be focusing on it right now. We only have one planet
Yeah.
and it needs help. So
Mhm.
I feel like I definitely kind of had a similar experience.
No, definitely, definitely. I was not like a good consumer before I
Mhm.
found out, for
Same.
sure. But like it just leaves room that a lot of people are still at that stage that we were, you know. So
Mhm.
this is why doing what we're doing and keep promoting it and keep educating is the best thing that is we could do,
Yeah,
really.
definitely. I think that a lot of it starts with, or for the most part, it starts with, you know, getting yourself educated. And that's not just with sustainability, but with like everything that's going on in the
Yeah.
world.
Start conversation.
Yeah, starting a conversation. And then next it starts with, you know, changing your ways, changing habits, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But so what are some tips? I feel like a lot of people, the reason why they don't maybe start getting into sustainability is because either they don't know how to, or they think it's like a super hard transition. So what tips do you think that you could give to our listeners about how to start making more sustainable choices, and making the transition, you know, more like an easy, smooth transition?
Mhm. I would say like don't get too down on yourself. Because if you like really focus on the problem, then you're not going to focus on the solution.
Mhm.
And so like some solutions can be really, really small, such as like, you know, instead of shopping at a retail store, you know, go thrifting.
Mhm.
Next step would be, okay, I have these clothes and, you know, they're still in good quality. Swap with your friends. It's super fun to organize, you know, uh, twice a year, once a quarter,
Mhm.
a clothing swap, and just invite some people over and just trade clothes. And then from there, if you're like, okay, I want to take it a step further, you could commit to remakes, no new clothes, which is not buying anything new. They're doing it during the summer for 90 days. But I would say start small. Like, don't buy anything new for 2 weeks and then
Mhm.
a month. And honestly, it's easier than it sounds. So those are just simple steps to take towards like sustainability in terms of like clothing and fashion.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I took the no new clothes pledge in summer, and I'm still on it, and it feels good because it's just like, okay, when Christmas rolled around or like birthdays, I'm like, all right, what do I have around me that I can like,
Yeah, I feel like what I love doing is I'll make like a YouTube video or something, and it'll be going through my closet and like making outfits out of things that are already there, or
yeah.
going through my closet and finding things that I don't want anymore and selling them on Depop or taking them to Goodwill, or just like random stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's great for content, but then it gives me a reason to like go through my closet, look at what all the things that I have, look at how I can style them in a new way, or use what I already have. Because there's so much out there. There's literally so much out there already. And they're just kind of like going to landfills. And so we could, if you just go to a thrift store and buy, you know, something and extend its end life instead of buying something new, then, you know, that's like such an easy way of saving a garment from going to a landfill and making more sustainable choices. And even if it's in like your everyday rather than just fashion, like taking shorter showers and carpooling places and using public transportation. But also I feel like a common like misconception is that like if you have, like I feel like with like if you have like shampoo that's in like a plastic bottle, rather than throwing out the bottle because it's in a plastic bottle, like use the shampoo that you already have before going and buying a more sustainable option. You know, like use what you already have, because there is so much already out there that we can use, and just don't like waste anything that doesn't need to be wasted.
Yeah. I think in order to make those changes, that requires like a lot of awareness, right? Because we live like a go society where we're just like, either we don't have time, we're not thinking when we're doing things, or you know, what have you. And like I think like sustainability definitely stems from like self sustainability, meaning like taking care of self, because you would, if you take care of yourself and like your environment, then that translates and transmutes into the world too. So like, yeah, doing like steps of like awareness or well-being, and then you'll create more awareness for those things that are around you, and you would want to take more care and really invest in and look at like, oh, like a good exercise, actually, I think I read somewhere, was like, you know, like look at your room or the environment or room that you're in and just look at your things and just think of like where it was made. Like, okay, that's, you know, some bedding. Is it cotton? Like, where was that cotton grown? Like, who sewed that? And start this like whole like this like kind of like mind-boggling thing that like there's so many things that in your own environment that has or is just from like sourced from all over the world. And it's just, it puts things into context, because like I also like, I feel like a huge reason why I'm such a sustainable advocate is because being a fashion designer, I know how long it takes to like make a shirt. It's like, it's a long time, from like mood board to sourcing fabric to like sewing to sample to then sewing in an actual fabric. And I don't think any of that should amount to like $5. So it's just like, yeah, really looking at things and understanding, you know, that was made by another human, and like where, and like, I don't know, I feel like that kind of like leads you down the path of realization and like self-awareness.
Yeah. Definitely. I remember seeing this TikTok on my For You page a really long time ago. And it was a great TikTok. It was this woman, and she was like, keep this in mind every time you buy from Shein or some fast fashion brand or something like that. And it was just basically showcasing photos of sweatshops and children working and making clothing and being in terrible conditions. And then I remember looking at the captions, and everyone was like, yeah, but like their stuff is cheap and cute, so like those kids can keep working on stuff. And I was like shocked. I was shocked by how people were reacting. I was like, that is the most terrible thing that you could ever say. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And I feel like they were taking it as a joke.
Yeah.
Like literally put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like imagine if you were born and 8 years into your life, you're working in a sweatshop and getting paid no money and working under terrible conditions as like an 8-year-old child. And it's just like you have to literally like put yourself in someone else's shoes and be like, okay, would you want to be doing that? If you like, even me seeing that, I like, without even thinking about like, what if that was me? Like I feel terrible. That's why I care so much about sustainable fashion, because it's like it's not only the planet, but it's the people working on it too. And so like even seeing someone else be put through those conditions like makes me feel terrible. But if people on TikTok can't see that, or at least that one TikTok, I'm not saying all TikTokers, but then you have to like put yourself in that position and be like, okay, but would you want to be under those circumstances? And I'm gonna probably say almost 100% of the time, no, you would not.
Yeah.
And then you have to like reevaluate, like, and think and like just educate yourself on like the conditions that these fast fashion brands that like you're buying from are putting other people in, and then reevaluate, I feel like, the shopping decisions that you
for sure.
Yeah, it was
we
just
live in a bubble.
yeah, literally. I'm like, I cannot imagine. I couldn't imagine ever commenting that on, even thinking that, let alone commenting on TikTok. But that was just shocking. And so then I was like, oh my God, like imagine if that was you. Would you really be saying that? I feel like you would be wishing that people were advocating for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, insane. So let's get more into Remake. So we're both a part of Remake. And so when did you find Remake? How did you join it? And tell us where you are now.
I've been a Remake ambassador since last year, February 2021. I found Remake through, I believe, Fashion Revolution. I think True Cost mentioned Fashion Revolution. I'm not quite sure, but I think there's a link there. And I just remember I've just been heavily following Fashion Revolution. And I kept seeing Remake pop up. And then I remember going to the site and it's like apply to become an ambassador, be part of the community. I was like, ooh, this sounds cool. And then so like literally I remember once I got like, oh, you've been accepted, I'm like, wow, it felt like I've been accepted to a job, but like once I really understood what it was way better, because it was just like, no, you've been accepted into a community of like-minded individuals who speak the same language as you. So yeah. When did you join?
I feel like I think I joined a little over a year ago, and I remember finding it because on Saturdays I did shout out Saturdays of like other eco-friendly content creators, and I remember looking and seeing like a common theme that a bunch of them in their bio had like a Remake ambassador, and I was like, what's Remake? Yeah. So I looked at it and I like immediately, I literally think I looked at their Instagram for like half a second, saw this amazing community of people, like-minded people, and like immediately applied to join. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm so excited. And so then I've been an ambassador ever since. And I love talking and like having other Remake ambassadors on my podcast, because it's like we are such a great little community of people and we're like all working for the same thing. And I feel like it's so hard. Not so hard, but I feel like I've been able to like connect with a lot of people that have the same ideals as me. And in the like whole content creator industry, I feel like sometimes that is a little hard to find, because it is, you know, an industry that is very heavily promoting fast fashion. And so I like just loved being able to like join meetings once a month and meet other people that are like in my same state and stuff like that. That also have the same values. So yeah, I love them. I feel like that's a great way of like, if you're getting started and you want to take steps to like start really advocating for sustainable fashion, like join Remake. There's so many people that are a part of it. And I'm pretty sure they're just like always looking for obviously like more people to advocate. And
it's not just about fashion either. Like, it's about sustainability. Like like it's like a sustainable fashion, but it's also like a human rights issue, like a women's rights issue, like it goes deep.
It does. It really, really, I feel like that's also like a misconception with sustainability. And I feel like I mention this all the time, but that it's just like, oh, like you're wearing hemp or you're wearing something made out of whatever. And I'm like, yes, that's it. But it's like, it's so much more.
Yeah.
It's about inclusivity, and it's about the people, as I've mentioned a billion times this one episode, and obviously the planet as well. And it's about just like, you know, fighting for everyone's rights and making sure everyone's getting paid what they should be and working in correct conditions, but then also that, you know, we're upcycling things and reusing things and wearing sustainable fabrics and biodegradable fabrics and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of everything, but yeah, definitely suggest joining Remake for all of our listeners. It's also just a great way, I feel like, about like to be able to learn more if you're like trying to get more educated on the subject, because we do have, you know, monthly meetings and they'll talk about what's going on currently and what we're aiming to do. So
there's different hubs too. So like you're part of an international network. So I'm in the Bay Area Remake team. And so individually as Remake Bay Area, we have our own events for the Bay Area city. Same thing happens in other cities around the world. And what's super cool is like when I was in Mexico, I was like, I wonder if there's any Remake ambassadors here. So I looked that up. And yeah, I just like contacted them. They were like happy to talk to me. And I was like, oh, cool. So like you can travel the world and just like meet up with like another sustainable fashion like advocate. And it's like you're part of like this whole international family, and it's super cool. Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm going to Paris over the summer and I want to like reach out to people and be like, hey.
Okay, I'll be in Italy.
Oh my God. I'm like, I'll meet you in Italy, girl.
There's a Remake ambassador there who's she's gonna be the community organizer for Italy. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So you should see if there's one in Paris.
Yeah, I'm going to. I like really, because I'm going with my school, but we have okay. But we have like a free weekend and then a few free days. And I'm like, I would love to meet up with like other sustainable Remake ambassadors and just like meet people in person. I feel like it's such a great way of like meeting people. And so I'm like really excited to be able to do that. And I'm gonna reach out to everyone in Paris and be like, hey guys, who's here? Let's hang out. Let's talk about sustainability.
Oh, for sure.
I love it.
Different over there too. Like,
yeah, I love it. So can you tell us a little bit about what Remake is currently doing, or what just like what a broad, because I mean, before I heard about Remake, I had no idea what it was. So can you tell our listeners kind of like what it is and then also what they're currently doing now?
Yeah, so Remake is a nonprofit that focuses on sustainability. Their tagline is making fashion a force for good. And they do that through education, through transparency, through leadership development, through events, through an ambassador network, just an abundance of resources. And as you mentioned, our monthly ambassador calls, which fills us in all things sustainable fashion. We have our next call on Monday, which is going to be exciting. And that's actually open to the public. So this is in March. And then, so for example, one of our most recent wins, and when I say wins, this is mainly towards like advocacy work, because that is where majority of the changes happen, is through the law system. But the most recent win was there was like the largest it was the biggest wages owed to garment workers in India. So it's the largest wage theft. That's the word I was looking for. And Remake just blasted all these brands, like pay your garment workers, pay your garment workers. And we had a call yesterday, and supposedly H&M like accidentally sent one of their emails to Remake saying like, oh yeah, we we are going to pay back our workers. Supposedly there's this organization called Remake, and we've received 100,000, like so many emails, and like we're just going to pay our workers. So like, cool, like all these garment workers got paid, and now they could pay for like general living. And
Mhm.
because what they pay them right now is like not even that much. But I think because these big brands know how much of control they have towards garment workers, the garment workers have less of a voice. So they're kind of caught. They're caught with like, okay, like this is the only way I'm going to get paid. So big brands take advantage of that. So that was a big win, because there was like a lot of money owed, and a lot of brands that decided to pay back their workers.
Yeah, no, that was huge. I
Mhm.
remember seeing that all over Remake's Instagram, and then listening about it and like meetings and stuff. And then it's just so crazy to me that like it takes people emailing over and over and over again and trying to reach out as much as we can to be like, you need to pay people what people deserve. Like I feel like it blows my mind that people don't just like, I don't know, care about other people enough to like pay, especially big brands like H&M and other like other fast fashion brands. Like you have the money to do so. Even as like a content creator, I'll like want to work with a brand and they're like, yeah, but like we can't pay you. And obviously if it's like a startup, sustainable, just now starting small business, like that I get. But if it's like a huge fast fashion brand, not that I work with fast fashion brands, but I've had other friends that have told me, and they're like, yeah, they just don't want to pay me. And I'm like, that's so crazy, because it's like you're also doing your job and they're not wanting to pay you, but they're like a huge organization that obviously has the money to do so. So like it just blows my mind that it takes us emailing them and being like, this isn't right, for them to, and then not even them wanting to change their ways because they like care. They're just changing their ways because they're like, well, this is going to be a problem because all these people are like gonna retaliate against us and we're gonna lose money. So like, let's just do it to please them, rather than like them doing it for good moral reasons. It just blows my mind.
I mean, this is kind of why we're in this, like where we are right now, because a lot of people just don't care.
Mhm.
They don't. They just care about money that they're gonna make, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's
It's
insane.
yeah, it's sad. It's like,
It's awful. It's truly so sad. But with that, again, definitely we both suggest joining Remake. It's great if you want to get more educated on the topic or meet other people who have the same values as you do. Check out Remake on Instagram or join as an ambassador. And then I believe once you're an ambassador, you can reach out and become a community organizer, do even more things with Remake. Depends, how much time you have and what you want to do. But now talking more about brands themselves, what are some like sustainable brands that you love to shop at, or are you more of just like a, like thrift or die person?
yeah, it because like when I get like when this question arises, it's hard because it's just like uh, there's like, I mean, I'm all for sustainable brands, but it's just I personally don't have a favorite where I'm just like, oh yeah, like I love doing every single time, because like I did have one. They were so big a while ago, like Gypsy Sport. Yeah, they're super cool. I love what they were doing. They're all about inclusivity and like raising BIPOC and like individual, and like kind of breaking the norm of what beauty looks like, and I loved it. And then they just kind of dropped off, and I was like, no, like you guys are so cool. but then they were also getting into like other ways of designing, which I didn't really agree with. Like, I'm not quite sure. Like, it's hard. Like, I'm totally a thrifter. Like,
Yeah.
I need something, I go to the thrift shop, or I trade with my friends, or I make it.
Mhm.
That's kind of where I'm at. There is a lot of brands I admire for aesthetics and just like inspiration, but in terms of like brand, like doing big things, like not. What about you?
Um, I am a huge thrifter. I would probably say like 90% of my closet is thrifted or off Depop or like bought off a friend. Um, I do love Newly. I work with them, and I actually started um first by having just a subscription to them. And I was like, oh, I already have like the clothes. So basically, Newly is a way to rent clothing for a month. And then once you're done with it, you kind of just send it back to them. And then someone else has the option to rent it from them. So it's basically just like extending the end life of a garment. And if you really like something and you want to buy it, it gives you like the chance to try out new aesthetics, new clothing that maybe you wouldn't necessarily like wear a lot or don't know if you would like how it fits on you, but then you're able to have it for a month. And if you really, really love it, then you can actually buy it. And Newly gives it to you for like a discounted price because you do have the subscription with them already. And you can get, I think it's like 6 to 8 things per month. I think if you get 7 or 8 things, you have to pay just like $15 more. And then it's kind of like a sustainable way of wearing some fast fashion sites because um, they like get whatever's left over from old fast fashion places that they're gonna throw it out or take it to a landfill or whatever. So instead, Newly just like gives someone else the chance to like gives it the chance to not just be taken to a landfill and to actually be worn over and over and over again. And then if you mess up something or like stain something or tear it or whatever, they have professionals to fix it. And if it's like beyond repair, if you do something really bad to it, they actually take it and upcycle it and then they put it on their Newly thrift section.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
so like there's literally like no waste. It just goes into making other garments and
Yeah.
they have sustainable reusable packaging. So everything's just like really great with them. So I started working with them first just by like having a membership and renting from them. And then I was like, well, I already have the clothes, like might as well make content because I do really support them. And then I reached out and I was like, hey guys, like I'm a huge sustainable person and you guys are very sustainable. Like, do you guys want to work together? So this isn't just like a I work with them, try them out thing. It's like a I genuinely really support them thing.
Yeah.
And it's renting is like I think going to be really huge. And if you have like big events, or even if you just, like I said, want to try something out that's maybe you wouldn't wear that often, it's a great way of like just wearing something once and then never wearing it again and not causing like harm to the environment. But other than that, I'm a huge thrifter. I love thrifting. I literally find it so therapeutic.
Me.
I like if I'm like stressed and I like have a bunch of schoolwork, I'm like, I'm just gonna go thrifting and I'll be fine. um, and I think it's, just a great way of, again, of like using what we already have. I say this almost in every podcast. And my cousin who edits my podcast is gonna be like, Lexi, shut up. But I'm pretty sure I can never remember the statistic, but in like the 1950s or something like that, we could have basically stopped making clothes and we would have been 100% fine because we had so much clothes back then. But then we kept making them. And not only that, we kept making them at a faster rate. So there is literally so much out there already. So I'm just like, use what's already out there. Like go to a thrift store, buy what's already like there and what's gonna go to a landfill and save something. And I have found some of my coolest pieces all at a thrift store. And it's like, it makes it so much cooler because it's like, it's probably like one of a kind, or if it's not, it's like only a few people in the world are going to have it, which makes it that much more special. And since, like a thrift store doesn't have one specific aesthetic. Like when you walk into Zara, you know, it's like one specific aesthetic or style of clothing and it's all trendy and stuff like that. But when you walk into a thrift store, it's just like all these random things. So I really think that it helps you to find like your own personal style and like walk in there and be like, you know what, I genuinely like this. So I'm going to buy it, not because it's on trend, but because it's something that like means something to me. So I love thrifting. Just go thrifting. It's like $3 for like a lot of things. I am a broke college student, and a lot of people say that, you know, in order to be sustainable, you have to, you know, like spend more money on like quality stuff. And while that might be true, thrifting is my way of staying sustainable in the fashion industry. And I'm a broke college student, so if I can do it, you can do it.
Goodwill has been getting expensive though. I'm like,
really? I feel like in certain sections, like depending on like where it is, like I feel like in California, like it is, because thrifting's like huge here, because it's like a bunch of like Gen Z and millennials who find like thrifting is like one of the biggest trends. But I feel like if you go like in the middle of nowhere, or to not like a Goodwill, or you go to like a random thrift store, like a family-owned thrift store, like that's gonna be pretty cheap.
I've also noticed that I'm saying Goodwill because it's the one closest to me, but I just found a new one in Berkeley. It's called Second Street. If you live in Berkeley, they also have one on Haute Street. I highly recommend Second Street. But I'm noticing like a lot of like fast fashion brands like creeping in thrift shops. I'm like, oh, I don't want no Shein secondhand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Like, yes, it's secondhand. You could still get it, but I'm just like, oh, the quality of fabrics they use in fast fashion is horrible, and it's pretty sure it's gonna like fall apart in a year or so. Like, feeling the quality and like, it's just, you know, even like thrifting is therapeutic, right? We still have that, like, you know, it is feeling that need of like getting something new, and it does feel better that it is secondhand. But I think like, I feel like what has really helped divert my need of like getting something new all the time as well was like clothing swaps. Because they're so great because I organize them with some friends like twice a year, and when they happen, I literally get a whole new closet. I just like, and it's like I'm giving away like some of the clothes that I no longer identify with. So it helps me too, like, because I do like change my style or get over clothes soon. I'm still trying to grow into that minimalist wardrobe, but I don't know, I'm still finding that within myself. And I feel like clothing swaps, you know, one, I don't spend any money, and two, super cool to see a piece that you love on a friend, and you're like, okay, sure, go live your life with your next friend. You like, you know what I mean? Like, it's super cool seeing that like cycle happen in front of you. And
No, definitely. I want to do that with my friends, because I have so many clothes that they'll be like, oh my god, that's so cute. Or like, I know that every time we go out, my one friend, she always says that she doesn't have going out clothes. And I don't really like specifically organize my clothes as like, oh, this is what I'll wear going out. Like, I don't really have like a different aesthetic for when I go out and when I don't go out, or like if I'm going to like a club or going to like dinner, like I feel like I just wear whatever. So I guess I do have like a lot of like going out clothes, but I don't like necessarily qualify them as going out clothes. I just like wear them. And so I was like, we should host a clothing swap, because then like you can get more of like these going out clothes that I have that I don't really like wear anymore, or I just don't qualify them as going out. Like I just kind of qualify them as like clothes. I don't know. And then we can like, we won't have to, and I know that I'll go over to her. There's this jumpsuit that she has that I'm like literally obsessed with. And I'm like, we could do a clothing swap, and I could get my clothes and then I could get that jumpsuit.
You can always get it back too. Like,
that's what I just love, borrowing my friends' clothes. I have this, for a photo shoot one time, my friend has this very like distinct like Parisian style, and that was kind of like the vibe of like the shoot that we were doing. And I remember one of my Instagram captions was literally like, just so everyone knows, this entire wardrobe and all of these pictures are all my friend's closet. And I was like, but I loved it because it's like, I don't necessarily stick to one style. Like, I just like wear whatever. And I was like, so I liked being able to try out this style that I hadn't really like gotten a chance to wear that much, but just by borrowing her clothes, like I didn't even need to keep them in my closet because it's probably not something I'm going to wear all the time.
Yeah.
So there are really easy ways of being sustainable.
Yeah, it's true.
And I do think, because we were talking about, sustainable brands, and sustainable brands are great. And especially ones that like take what's already out there and then just like upcycle it. But even buying like something that's like, even if it is like a sustainable fabric and they're making something completely new out of it. And yes, while that like fabric is either biodegradable or sustainable or whatever, and while that is sustainable, honestly, like buying something that's already out there and secondhand buying something is probably more sustainable than buying something that's new made out of a biodegradable fabric. So just something to think about, because I know that a lot of complaints about like the sustainable industry is that, it is more expensive because you're buying, quality, and like the people that are making it are getting paid what they should be making. And so that is a common theme amongst like sustainable brands, but like secondhand shopping is also very sustainable, and it honestly could be seen as more sustainable than buying a biodegradable fabric. Anyways, so now a little bit back to you. We're talking about, repurposing and upcycling. And so you do a lot of that, which is amazing. So can you tell us about how you first got into that?
I think it started in high school. Like growing up in San Francisco, there was just all these events and like festivals, and I was just like, I need costumes for everyone. So I like take the clothes that I have and like glue some craft supplies on there. I'm like, cool, costume done and made. And like so that's kind of how it started. I just needed costumes and I just accessorized them. And I think it's also like I'm fairly a shorter person, so there's a lot of like shirts and pants that are too long for me, and so cut them at the hem, and I'm like, cool, fits me now. And then that would just kept transforming into like cutting collars and then sleeves, to then seeing a shirt that has a stain on it and then dyeing it, because I'm like, cool, like I wanted to dye it anyways, like new. And I often buy white shirts because like this is probably gonna stay white for like, I don't know, maybe like my third wear, because like I'm not to say I'm messy, but it's cool because like I'll just dye it after, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just kept evolving. Yeah.
Super, super cool. And so when you're talking about dyeing things, is there a sustainable way that, maybe if I have a white shirt that I stained, which is not unlikely. Whenever I talk about this with my boss all the time, because we'll go like get Starbucks or coffee or whatever. And every single time I get a chai and I'm like walking and somehow I look down and there's just chai all over my cup. And I'm like, what did I do? When did I do that? How did I do that? And then I'll look down and I'm like, there is chai all over my white shirt. How did that happen? So,
story of my life.
So maybe asking for a friend, what is a sustainable way of dyeing my shirt a different color, if it's white or whatever, and if I want to dye it a different color?
So totally, I'm glad we are doing, or you've asked that, because I'm actually hosting a natural dye workshop virtually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you can learn, and we'll be dyeing with our kitchen scraps. So everything that you'll be dyeing with, you'll probably have in your kitchen. And on the Eventbrite, I kind of list some other areas where you could possibly look and pull together like your little dye materials. And yeah, so it's on March 19th from 10 to 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. But it's pretty simple. And it's a lot about trying and testing and seeing what works and what doesn't. But yeah, I would say definitely hold on to all your white clothes, because you could for sure dye them with like coffee beans, avocado skins, onion skins, flowers. Yeah.
No,
So,
yeah, that's so cool. I I saw this TikTok of this lady, and she was using, what was it? It was like a beet or something, and she
mhm.
cut it up and she was using it as like makeup on her face, and it was
Oh,
like
whoa.
she was using it as like blush and like lipstick, and I was like, that's crazy. And she was like, it's literally the perfect shade for like everyone, because you can just keep on rubbing it on your face, and it's like you're literally just using like a vegetable. And I
No.
was like, that's crazy. And it's great because like you can literally see like the pink come out of the color of the vegetable and like onto her face as makeup. And I'm like, so yes, there's a way of doing that as a more sustainable makeup way, but also like if you can see that color just in like on your face as makeup, then you can definitely use that then to dye your clothes a different color. So
Totally. And I feel like because it's natural, right? The beads are natural. She's using it as makeup. And when you natural dye, those dyes, and not like, since it comes from the earth, it just looks so beautiful.
mhm.
Natural. It looks beautiful together. It looks beautiful on your skin, because it's just like Mother Nature, like
Mhm.
thing on you. And it's like, so it's like no matter what comes out, it's just so unique and
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
work for this company called Red Carpet Green Dress, and they're like a sustainable um red carpet like they work with other brands, and they use like scraps and old vintage pieces, and they design these clothing for like the Oscars and for different celebrities, and they're so cool and very sustainable and just absolutely amazing. And I was watching some old interviews of people wearing their stuff, and they were like, not only is the dress beautiful, but it's just that much more beautiful because it's like vintage, or it's using scraps, and it's sustainable, and it's saving um like the environment. And I was like, and it's so amazing to see that like, big celebrities are then promoting this brand, because then it's getting the word out there. And so I really completely agree, because it's like it's just that much more beautiful because it's sustainable and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
it. So
Yes.
where do you sell your upcycled pieces, and if so, where can our listeners buy them?
Yeah. So I have an online website. It's my name. So Sophia Marie with a PH. SophiaMarie.shop. And I sell my upcycled reconstructed wares on there. I also share like event notifications and blog posts for those who subscribe to my website. I send
Amazing.
monthly. And just being part of a remake, there most definitely will be some sort of event happening month to month. So, which is exciting. So this month is the natural dye workshop. Next month we have a mending workshop. And then in May we'll have a mental health awareness workshop.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. Well,
Mhm.
everyone go check that out. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners before we wrap things up?
Um, I would just say, take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and really connect with those individuals you know, who share the same interests as you, because that will just help you grow further. And yeah, I hope you can join us at Remake. And if you're in the Bay Area, I hope I could see you at one of our events. And you could follow me on social media. My handle is at sophia.marie. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for including me here. This was
Oh my gosh, of course. Well, everyone, make sure you go follow Sophia on her socials. And while you're at it, you can follow me on mine. My TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are all at Lexi Silverstein. That's Lexy, silver like the color, Stein. And remember to make the ordinary extraordinary.